Okay, so we are
Okay.
now live.
All right.
Is the sound okay? Okay.
Obviously, we are live.
Obviously, we are not ready. I am sorry for those people
Empty.
online. I hope all of you can hear as well. Assalamualaikum and very good evening to all. We are over in Trove Hotel right now in Johor Bahru, and we are doing this live over to you in YouTube channel. In IAM YouTube channel, and I hope all of you will benefit from the session that we have today. Welcome everyone to Sembang Chillex Regional. So probably you have joined in Sembang Chillex earlier and Sembang Chillex podcast as well, but this is regional because we do have invitees from Indonesia as well as Malaysia and also Brunei. So
Philippines.
thank you, everyone over here as well. We do have a number of participants over in front of us as well, who basically here with us as well, and you can also ask questions later. So for right now, this is the program that we call Sembang Chillax. Basically, it's a chat session. And we started late today because we were waiting for a session which is AFIO midterm that is going on right now. And afterwards, we also will have AER conference. And there's a lot of activities going on at Trove Hotel, Johor Bahru, Malaysia right now. So you are welcome to get to know us from the link that we provide as well. Yeah. So today we are going to listen to our panelists, and you can ask questions to our panelists as well. My name is Raza, and with me is Wata, who's going to be the moderator of the program with me. So let's introduce our guest.
Great, thank you, Engineer Raza. As you are all well aware, this is the first episode of Sembang Chillex Regional. We hope to bring this as a series of episodes talking about various engineering concerns in the region, the ASEAN region. We will continue this program in online mode so that we can provide opportunities to our brethren in the region to participate online. So in today's program, we'll be focusing on a hot topic at the moment, which will be the future of the engineering profession in ASEAN.
And we actually have different sets of audience today. We have students who are actually registered with us to join in the program. Although it's a YouTube live, they registered ahead of time. So we do have quite a number of participants who wanted to join in as well. And we do have young engineering professionals as well as seniors and also business owners. So there's quite a good set of people and in engineering field that is joining our session right now. So let's not delay this anymore, and let's introduce it to the gentlemen that we have today.
Okay, so you have Raza, you have Wata. We have for first would be Engineer Habibi Raza from PII. He is the executive director of PII, and we'll be talking to him a bit more later. Second one, we have Engineer Yao Chao-Fong from the IEM. He's sitting on my right and on your right. He's a vice. He's a
left is right.
he is vice president with the IEM and also the AER head commissioner. Last but not least, on somebody's right would be Engineer Chinlita from Puja, Brunei. He's the chairman of the engineering division of Puja. So back to you, Raza.
Okay, let's kick off the question. The first question for Engineer Habibi Raza is like my son lah. So, what is your opinion of the future of engineering profession in Indonesia? Yeah, as well as the region itself. We know engineering will always be relevant, but is the profession itself still relevant? And with the AI that we have right now, are the job of human engineering still relevant? What do you think? No, they can hear as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, as been introduced by the moderator and host of the event, yeah, Pak Engineer Wata and Engineer Razak. I am Habibie Razak. I'm currently working as Executive Director of the Institution of Engineers Indonesia and also appointed as Indonesia Country Director for SMAC International Australia for Indonesia branch. So
You can use that because probably different.
probably cannot hear. Okay. Okay. In Indonesia, the engineers profession has been recognized since the Indonesian Independence Day, yeah, where our President Senior Soekarno, also the engineer and the architect. So his vision and mission to us still up to date. So he was willing the national development to be led by the engineers. Having said that, nowadays the Indonesian government has been emphasizing the engineers to be more proactive in various sectors because we already had the engineering law established and released by the Indonesian Parliament since 2014, and we have the government regulation also issued by the government, government regulation number 25 2019, which means that the engineer should be more involved in various sectors to add value. Yeah, not only when we are talking about engineering, not only in the infrastructure sectors, but in various sectors, in renewable energy development, in the transportation sector, also in several agricultural, forestry, and other relevant engineering in Indonesia. And within the Institution of Engineers Indonesia, we also have a Young Engineers Forum called Forum Insinyur Muda. So the objective or the mission of Forum Insinyur Muda is more to attract the fresh graduate, but also the senior high school students, yeah, to get into the university and choosing the engineering education. So having said that, we are going to have more engineers in the future in order for Indonesia to develop the country to be to meet the expectation of Indonesia Emas, we call it, in 2045. I think that's it for time being.
Okay, thank you, Baby. But just a follow up to that question. Yeah? Do you think there is a problem of getting engineers nowadays? Because many of the countries, especially in Malaysia, we are lack of engineers where the youngsters do not want to take the profession anymore. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I heard the rumor that many fresh graduates, yeah, engineering graduates, rather choosing to be the YouTuber rather than
Yes,
working as
animation,
engineer.
that kind of
Yeah.
things. It's very, so it's a challenging work for us to actually, try to get all the youngsters to be interested with the profession. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not only about money. Yeah, when we are talking about money, there are so many professions can create more money. But when we are talking about how we value add to the nations, how we support the national development, how we support the regional development within the ASEAN, I think the engineering profession is the right choice for all of us.
Yes, I think that's where the key is. Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't Wata, you follow up? Okay.
Thank you, Azhar. So that one is talking about adding value, developing engineers, but I guess at some point we still have to talk a bit about the money. So in that case, we talk to the money man, Mr. Engineer Chow Fong. Since you are a business owner, what do you think about, what do you look for when you hire engineering professional in your company? Do you necessarily need an engineering degree? Are you bringing somebody with experience, or but not necessarily have the qualification. So maybe the audience would like to know a bit more about that.
Yeah, on hiring engineers, of course, I own an engineering consulting firm. So of course, the first thing that we look for is, because we are an engineering consulting firm, so we are looking for those who have a degree in engineering. And of course, since we have a crowd from ASEAN countries, we definitely want to see not only Malaysian engineers, because we are from Malaysia, but also ASEAN engineers to work for us, be it working from your own country or working in Malaysia, because we can work from home nowadays. So that's the first thing that we are looking for. So I think having engineers in, of course, degree, and of course, we definitely want to open up and try to explore engaging or even employing ASEAN engineers. Okay, so you can talk to me later. That's what we want to do, because I think I've actually spoken to Pak Habibi as well, Engineer Tracy, my good friend. It's time for us to think of, yes, we have engineers in Malaysia, but we also have engineers in ASEAN. Okay, we should actually build on this network we have, just like what we have today. We're getting to meet a lot of engineers physically, and of course in the web, in YouTube as well. So that is on engineering level, because we need a certain level of qualification to work on engineering subjects in our company. But of course, it does not stop us from actually engaging or even employing non-engineers. For example, now you have the building information modeling BIM. Okay? You have a lot of like CAD operators or even draft person who actually turn themselves into a BIM specialist, which is actually now a very common job or even job scope that we have in Malaysia as well, to be a BIM modeler or even to actually do a 3D designs and so on. And of course, we are also looking at working not only engineers but technologists and technicians, look at maybe hands-on projects at site or working at site as well, because my company is a mechanical and electrical company. So this is where we are. So I think we are not only looking at just engineers per se, but just like what we promote in ASEAN, engineering practitioners. So it could be engineers, it could be technicians, it could be technologists. So that's what we are looking at.
I think it's good that we are encompassing all of the engineering field as well as engineering types, because we don't just have engineers, we have engineering technicians as well as engineering technologists. So the future of engineering, which is what the episode 1 is all about. So that's what we are talking about today, about the future of engineering profession in ASEAN per se. Do you have a follow-up question? Or?
No, I just use my networking to network back to you, Raza.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's now move to Puja, Engineer Chin. Brunei basically is a small country. Thus, engineering profession probably is considered as limited. Is this true? And how does Brunei handle the engineering graduates from, or the various engineering expertise requirements over in Brunei?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to explain that in Brunei, we have all sorts of disciplines of engineering. We have local engineer, we also have foreign engineer. Just to name a few, we have mechanical, electrical, civil, structural, even have bridge engineer. For myself, example, in our Puja of this institute, we also have foreign engineer as a member. Example, there are a lot of members. Example like from Philippines, Malaysia, and so far we have Malaysia and Philippines. And whereas for my company itself, I'm also the principal or the managing partner of my consultant company. My company have 4 disciplines: mechanical, electrical, civil, structural. I also employ Philippine engineer, because here I think quite a lot of Philippine engineer here. Philippine engineer are very good in computer. They are very good in AutoCAD, so designer. So, and one important thing is they are very hardworking. And one thing I like is Philippine engineer never against the boss. So I think in a nutshell that even though we are a small country, we are able to perform. So there is a beauty about it.
Yeah, that's actually great to know that we are actually working together in ASEAN countries to provide each other with the requirements of engineering. Yeah. Okay. What up?
Okay, thank you, Raza. So, Raza is acting as my straight man today. He was talking about cross borders and talking about engineers in various countries. Yin Chao Fong has talked about the money side. Engineer Lee has talked about using cross-border resources to for the betterment of his country. Then we asked Engineer Habibi the hard questions and the questions that everybody would like to know. Answer, sorry. So, Indonesia has massive projects in the pipeline, which we know about, requiring resources that potentially transcends borders. You might need resources from outside Indonesia. We would suggest that you and your compatriots use the ASEAN Engineering Register to look for resources and assets. That's our suggestion, but would this be a reference for you? What would you look for in such a reference that would be your first point of choice? I mean, what can we do to make that the we'll make that as the center of reference so that so we can make it front as being tongue-tied next to Engineer Habibi. Shall we make it front and center as part of the regional engineering recruitment procedures?
Yeah. As Indonesia has been part of the ASEAN economic communities, we signed a mutual recognition agreement within ASEAN countries on engineering services. Indonesia is now more open for foreign engineers. For sure, the foreign engineers should be professional engineers recognized within the ASEAN economic communities and should add value to develop the local engineers. So not only working and getting salary in Indonesia, but there should be a mentoring program, there should be a coaching program in order for foreign engineer to transform, to share the knowledge and experience to young engineers in Indonesia. I think that should be the first point we need to make sure this is happening. The second one, I think since this MRA also provide the access, the networks for Indonesian engineers to contribute to other countries, not only to the ASEAN, but also to the Asia Pacific economy cooperation communities here. I think this will give the access to all professionals, engineers in Indonesia to give more contribution, not only to add value for Indonesia itself, but also to add value for the global the competitiveness within the Asia Pacific, the ASEAN countries.
So you would say that the ASEAN Engineering Register is something worthwhile as a port of call to look at resources for your projects and for other ASEAN countries as well.
Yes, as I am the country director for engineering consultancy services company in Indonesia, now the mandatory requirement to be the senior engineers should be having an ASEAN Engineer Register.
Oh, that's very good.
Now I'm pushing my local engineers to make sure that they can get qualified.
Thank you, Engineer Habibi. We hope that you will push harder. And now I push this back to Engineer Raza.
Okay, thank you very much. So for all of the guys over there in, I'm talking about the guys joining us over in YouTube Live, you can type in inside the chat box if you have any questions for all of our panelists over here, Engineer Chaufo, Engineer Habibi, and Engineer Chin over here, and ask them any questions that you may have about the future of engineering over in ASEAN. And then Mr. Tu at the back there will be giving us over the questions that you may have for us. So before we go into further questions, from your side over there, and also the participants, we will provide some time later to actually ask any questions that you may have. So for right now, I do have some more questions over to Jovo. Okay, engineering teaches us that we need to know and quantify challenges so that we can design an optimum solution in terms of time, resources, and returns. Yeah. So, what do you think the challenges and potential solution are for our next generation of engineering assets?
Okay. Talking about challenges and also solution to solve engineering problems per se. I think of course everyone as an engineer or even other careers, you face challenges, you face problems every day. And of course, for us, we are facing engineering problems. For example, in the electrical industry or mechanical industry that we are in. So of course, the first thing that you will do when you have challenges is to refer to your fellow engineers, those who are in the same level as you. You actually discuss it, or even refer to your what we call superior. So that's the first step. So of course, if the superior is also unable to actually take up the challenges and it's still too difficult, of course you refer to people outside the company. So that is actually where we do normally. But I think coming down to the next level, I believe we used to think that the networking is within your company or within your state or within your country itself. And of course, when you face problem, you actually solve it based on the Malaysian way or even like Indonesian way or a Bruneian way. But I think coming down to the new generation, I believe since we are here in ASEAN, it's about time to think about ASEAN way to solve our challenges. Because by how do I say that ASEAN way? Of course, by networking. Maybe one day when I have issues on engineering, I may refer to a friend here, Engineer Chin, okay, who is an expert in maybe oil and gas to solve it for me because I have an oil and gas project. I do not know what is oil and gas, but Bruneians are very good at that, expert in oil and gas field. So we can actually work together. So that's one of the ways where you network, meaning to say you attend events like AFIO or CAFIO conference and all that. You get to meet them, and whenever you have issues or even challenges, you know Malaysia doesn't have experts in that, you can refer to them. Like for example, Chin is expert in oil and gas. Pak Habibie, I know renewable energy sectors and all that. So that is one of the networking sessions. Secondly, I think besides networking physically or maybe virtually, it is also time for us in ASEAN to share our knowledge because by sharing, you are able to teach or even bring the entire what I call region to a next level. So by having more webinars, by having more events or even knowledge sharing, for example, from Malaysia, you share about solar installation, from Brunei, you can share about oil and gas, from Philippines, I believe you have wind energy and so on. So by all this sharing, this will actually enhance the level of competency of engineers in ASEAN. And of course, also, we are able to actually take challenges better because we know more. We actually have more knowledge, not only confined to your own country. So this is what we are doing, speaking per se as a AI commissioner. We do a lot of activities to actually do that so that we can actually bring our ASEAN engineers or even engineers over the ASEAN countries to the next level in solving and of course solving problems and of course taking up a bigger challenge in engineering profession.
Thank you so much, Jovo. Bro, you can ask me also. I petroleum engineering discipline.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I think we don't have that much time left actually. We need to wrap up the session quite fast in this session. But if you have any question, do post the question, and if you have any question over here as well, particularly for any of the panelists, you can ask. But right now, I think Wata has one more last question before we open up to the floor. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Raza. So the question is to Engineer Ching. So the concern is about, we'll be talking about engineering. But we must not forget we have engineers, engineering technologists, and engineering technicians. A triumvirate of engineers as a triumvirate of resources, as we say. So, Engineer Chin, any thoughts on how they can progress together, especially on professional recognition and role recognition in ASEAN?
Yeah, this one is a very interesting topic because combining three professions into one is not an easy task because you have an engineer, you have an engineering technologist and technician. But having said that, all these three things is already working together for many, many years. Ever since we have this industrial revolution, in which century do you remember? This is in your first year subject in your university. I think your professor will tell you. 19th century when we have an industrial revolution. Then slowly we go into the industrial 2, industrial 3. Ever since we go entering to the industrial 2, which is the power generation, if I'm not mistaken. Industrial 3, we are talking about computerization and automation. That's not to say about Industrial 4. Industrial 4 is talking about Internet of Things. Ever since have this Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, 4, all these three professions already work into one. Because if you have a designer, let's say engineer designer, if you don't have a hands-on person, nothing can be built. But if you don't have a technician, worse. That is the final level of this fine-tuning of any engineering activity. So automatically has to work together. But having said that, today the technology is advanced so much. So the question is very difficult to answer. I cannot give a very direct answer, but it's only I can give you a very generic answer. Have to work together, grow together, because in your organization, let's say if your engineer is always attending, I think everyone should know, continuous professional development, right? But if your technician did not catch up with you, your philosophy, no matter how complicated your design, technicians do not understand. Let's say example, how many of you are in the electrical discipline? Single line drawing. In the old day, 1 or 3 line. Now it's so complicated. If the technician cannot understand how to read your drawing, he cannot install anything. So it's how you link up together, it's how to work together. This one have to engage another motivator. Even though I'm the boss of the company, I found this difficult because it's come down to the individual. And also I have to follow, I have to learn from Engineer Yao lah, how to motivate the staff. Example, give more salary. Money is a motivator.
Is
Right.
that the only motivator?
I think so. Human being, ever since human being created this dollar, money, everyone is motivated by this, right? Unless you want to retire. Of course, for me, I can say very proudly, very spiritually, cheery, I work with my heart commitment. I don't need money. I don't believe it.
Okay, Jinchin, I don't think I have a follow up from that.
Thank you so much for your honesty, though.
And on that provocative note, I give you to our agent provocateur, Raza.
Okay, thank you so much to all the panelists. And I think one of the things that we have in Sembang Chillex is basically chatting and having fun. Throughout the session. We have gone through quite a lot of stressful meetings throughout the day, and I think towards the end of the day we chat and have fun. I wonder if there is any questions from the floor that I'm giving you all first. Okay, I have one question over there. Probably
Pak Adi.
we can pass.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm from
I'm your good friend, don't ask me questions.
Okay, we're setting the stage.
Regarding the utilization of ASEAN engineers within ASEAN countries, also the challenge is the rate. So instead of seeing this MRI as help, they see this as an obstacle. Right? That's why I'm thinking that the question is how you present yourself as an engineer instead of making like restriction, which is big obstacle for the engineers to move forward, but help them to. So we encourage to register themselves. We go to Malaysia to work there instead of just silent, not telling anybody, but we report it to the EIIM that we are from Indonesia, working and then get help from the country, yeah. Because I also get involved in the ACPA, and this is one of the problem also for the mobility.
Okay, I think probably Chong.
Yeah,
It's the best.
since it's on mobility of ASEAN engineers, I think of course I'm also proud because some of you are actually receiving the certificate today. Yeah, I do agree with Pak Andy. MRA, Mutual Recognition Agreement on Engineering Services. Yeah, we have started with ACPE or even ASEAN engineers, but agree with you as well. There are restrictions. For example, to register yourself in other countries, yeah, you are ACP, you need to have another process of RFP, Registered Foreign Professional Engineer. And again, there is also requirement in the country itself. For example, in Brunei or even in Singapore or in other countries. Yeah, we acknowledge that, and I believe it will take time to actually realize the dream of, like, for example, Euro engineers. You know, Euro, you can actually be an engineer in certain countries and so on. You can freely practice. So while we wait for this to happen, of course, I've been actually discussing with people. While we wait for this to happen, but we can actually look at other things in terms of mobility. As you know, it has been defined by the WTO 4 modes. Mode number 1 is you do not need to travel to that country. Okay, for example, I need the services of Engineer Chin. I can actually engage him to do design for me. So that is already a mobility. Of course, it's not physical mobility, but that is a form of mobility where engineers, for example, from Philippines, I need an engineer to do building information modeling. You do not need to work in Malaysia. You can work in Philippines. I engage the company and you provide the services and we have a mobility. So that is number 1. Number 2 is there is also mode number 2 where, for example, we know Razak is a petroleum engineer and he is expert in petroleum designs and so on. Okay? For example, if companies in Philippines who want to know more about petroleum engineer, you can actually engage Razak to do a webinar training to train your engineers. Okay? Here again, services are provided where Razak provides services to Philippines without physical appearance. Webinar. Okay? Thirdly, of course, is we know that we can't practice in, for example, Indonesia. We have to have licenses and all that. So what we do is we have a joint venture with Pak Habibie. So another form of services. Yeah, of course we know that there's a restriction, but things can happen. But we actually do it based on what is actually practical. Of course, the number 4 is if let's say Engineer Chin wants to come to Malaysia and work, yes, yeah, we invite. So he will be working in Malaysia. So that is a fourth form of mobility, which is actually the conventional one, where you go to that country to work. Okay? That can happen as well. So, but of course, we look at other options. So that's why I think we should actually promote other options and work together in ASEAN and realize the dream of mobility. We know that there are restrictions because, unfortunately, because ASEAN, the economic levels are still different. Okay? You have Singapore, you have the intermediate ones like Malaysia, Thailand, and all that, and we have the developing ones like Laos, Cambodia, or even the upcoming ones like Timor-Leste. So there are gaps, and of course, it takes time to actually have, like what Engineer Fred has mentioned just now, levelize the requirements. So it will take time, but it will happen, but it will take time. But instead of actually us taking, waiting for it to happen, we can do other things. And how we can mobilize this, like what I mentioned, 1, 2, 3.
Actually, that's a great way to look at a mobility of engineers over in ASEAN, because our deal is not the same as the European Union. So ASEAN itself has some limitation in terms of how we want to mobilize our engineers, and those are the great ways on how we want to do it. And I think there's a lot more ways that we can do, and this is what engineers do. Basically, we find solution to the problem. We have one problem. That's exactly what we do. Now, that's a wonderful thing that we are sharing today, and I hope all of the listeners over in the YouTube live is getting the benefits out of this session as well. And before that, do we have any questions? We don't have any questions from the YouTube live sessions, but if you have any questions, you can always send over your questions over to the sec@im.org.my, so you can reach all of us as well. Back to the question just now, is there any other comments that you would like to make?
Add
Yes,
comments.
please do.
Yeah, I think the mutual recognition agreement has been happening in these last few years. I can give you some examples. For instance, a few years back, one of the Malaysian engineering consultants did the design for Indonesia projects. And then this engineering consultant was aware that there is a regulation of engineering practice in Indonesia. Then the guy contacted me asking for professional engineer to endorse the technical documents, yeah, for their drawings, their specification, all those technical things. Then I checked with my PII friends who have the professional engineer's license, and then let them talk each other, and then this PE, the Indonesian PE, will provide the support to review, to endorse, and even to approve the technical documents. So I think this is the way that we can have support each other. Same issues when the Indonesian engineering consultants working in Malaysia, there is a set of regulation also regulating that all the technical documents should get the approval from the PE. We are doing this kind of things. I think this last few years is becoming more active and active. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jin, would you like to add a little bit more?
Actually, I want to add a lot, but unfortunately, Engineer Yao already answered for me. So I only have one paragraph to say. Otherwise, my style is when I hold the microphone, I will not let go because it speaks a lot of it. So I think today's we are entering the Industry 4, Internet of Things. The mindset that we are doing works, right? It's not necessarily you need or you must physically attend to that country to do the work. We can do in your country best. As long as you proven to your other party that you are capable to it, such as you hold the ASEAN Engineer Registrar. If you hold that, more or less, I trust you. I can award the job to you. You do behind the scene for me. I do the endorse, right? So I can save a lot of manpower resources. So we must change this kind of concept. But having said that, this is on the engineering level. How about technician, right? They need to do hands-on work. So this is why, back to the first question, they asked me, I cannot answer you yes or no. But this is a lot of difficult thinking. So since you are all qualified engineer, I think you can think for your own answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Chin. I think with that, with lots of thoughts, lots of follow-ups, and definitely a series on Netflix, we will.
Do you want to have one more from?
We do.
Okay.
Then we've come to the end of our session. We hope you, those of you here in the room, and those of you in internet land, have gained a lot from this session. So as parting words, I pass it back to Raza.
So thank you very much for all who joined our session today. This is episode 1 of the Sembang Chillex Regional. If you would like to know more about Sembang Chillex series, you can always go to the IM official website that is on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you more in the future. This episode, I hope all of you have benefit from the sessions of the future of engineering over in ASEAN. Till then, thank you very much for joining in the Sembang Chillex Regional. Till then, thank you and good night.
See you in Cambodia. See you in Cambodia.
See you all in Cambodia. Okay, thank you so much. This is for you. And this is for you.
This is a trademark.
Okay, shut off the and this is for you. Oh, photo session.